This movie is going to be addressing the aside area, and we're going to start styling these to look the way we want them to. If we switch over to our code view temporarily, you can see that after our article, we have an aside area, open and closing tags, and within that aside there are three divs. Now these divs are in place here, and within those divs we have paragraph, and the second paragraph has a class called source. These are meant to be testimonials, and the source is the source of the person giving that testimonial. Alright, so what we want to be doing is first and foremost looking at the aside itself. If I do that, if I come in here and I click here, you can see that the aside is set to float left, it's got padding on the bottom, and it's also got a width of 320. So what I want to be doing is targeting the divs in those asides. So right down here at the bottom, I'm going to click on div, and then I'm going to come here and say new CSS rule. Compound based on my selection, I will be less specific, so I'm really only targeting the div in the aside. First thing I want to be doing is giving it a background color. So I'm going to keep it fairly dark, 333. And as far as a background image is concerned, I also want to have that diagonal line background, but I don't want it to be green, so that's why I've prepared this BG Trans, which is basically a transparent background. So if I place that there, and then if I click apply, you can see what that's looking like. Alright, it's good, but there's still some issues and some problems that we need to do. I want to move it away from the edge, I want to open things up a little bit more. So let's go to the box category and let's start playing with some margin information. So first of all, I'm going to say margin on the left, 20 pixels. I know that that's going to move it away from the edge, and that's really good. The margin on the bottom, I think I want to move some space away from each other. Now doing that, as you can see, gives us a little extra space outside of each of those divs. That's perfect. Now the top and the right, we can leave that at 0. That's not really a problem. Also, I can see that my text is a little tight. Now I don't really mind that there's padding already on either side here and here. So it's really the top and the bottom that I want to address. So I'll come in here and say 20 pixels on the top and 20 pixels on the bottom. And that certainly opens things up a lot more, looking much nicer. All right. At this point, the only other thing I want to do is address some of the color. So I'll go to the category called type, I'll go to the color, and I think I'll just pick the same whitish color that I had in the background. Looks good. I want to make sure that the font weight is set to normal. Don't really need anything looking too big or bold. So all of that looks pretty good, and I think we are pretty okay with what we're seeing, except as I notice here, we need some rounded edges. So I'll click OK, and we're going to have to put in the border radius information here by adding properties. So let's come in and say border radius. And remember, I'm going to copy this because we'll need to put in our prefixes for the other states. So I'll copy that, Command C or Control C. Let's give it a simple 10px here. Try that again. That's better. And then I'm going to add another property, dash moz, dash Command V or Control V, 10px. I'll do it again, dash WebKit, dash Control V, border radius. So we've got all of those elements in place. We've got nice rounded edges. Everything's looking pretty good. Now what I want to do is address some of the text that's inside these areas as well. So let's put our cursor in here, and notice it's the P tag that I'm going to be working with. So I'll come to new CSS rule, compound, less specific, so it's just the P tags that I'm addressing. Not really much I want to do here except maybe make the text a little bit smaller, so 0.9 ems. Apply that, nice and neat, looking pretty good. I'm also going to put my cursor down here, and notice this is P source. So I'll come in here, and if you were to create a new CSS rule, you can see that it says div dot source, but I'm going to remove all of this. It's really just dot source that I'm addressing. So I could leave it like this, or as we saw earlier, I could have also written aside space, and we could say div, anything inside of a div in the asides, space source. So anything that has source inside of these elements will look the way we want it to. So I'm going to come in here, and let's see, I want to make it a little bit smaller, so 0.75 perhaps ems. As well, I think I'll make it italicized, so I'll go to the font style and say italic. And also, I think I'll give it a custom color. So I'll put the pound symbol 648 and B00 is the one that I want to use. So I'll click OK, and now we've got those elements nicely in place, looking exactly the way I want it to. Well, let's come back in the next video, and we're going to wrap things up by looking at the footer and making it look exactly the way we want it to.